people out there. It's Gerald Clark with 7 Planet Broadcasting. Today is March 1st, 2020. And I've got Jesus Valencia with me here. I've got, you want to introduce yourself? Huh?
Irvin Douglas.
Irvin Douglas. And
Sahara Janine Diaz.
Yeah. And Farid on the floor.
Yeah, Farid's on the floor.
Yeah, and Christa is here with me as well. And what we've decided to do is kind of just, a lot of times when we get together, it turns out to be a discussion of things in my book, things that are going on in the world, and it kind of turns into a really great dialogue every time these folks come over. So it already started digressing into that dialogue, so I decided to, and Christa helped me to get the microphone set up and see if we couldn't at least capture the audio the first time. So, who wants to ask a question?
¿Tienes alguna pregunta?
What's on your mind?
¿Qué está en tu mente?
Dile que la pregunta que le han hecho muchos de sus seguidores en su libro.
Says the question that many followers have asked you about your book.
¿Quién creó a los Anunnakis?
Who created the Anunnakis?
Wow. Okay, so you've already jumped past who created humans to who created the Anunnaki. Well, that's in my second book, by the way.
Dice que ya te brincaste de quién creó a los humanos a quién creó a los Anunnaki.
Yeah, that's the reason I wrote the 7 Planet Mercury Rising, because everybody wanted to know if the Anunnaki were perceived as gods to us, who were their gods? Like, who created them?
Por ese motivo escribió su libro del séptimo planeta Mercurio creciente.
And that was,
entonces dice cuáles son los dioses que nos crearon o quiénes eran sus dioses de ellos.
That was my burning question too. I really wanted to know.
Él también tenía esa pregunta, él también quería saberlo.
Yeah. So when I found out that the Anunnaki were treated as gods, and it wasn't just one of them. You know, in Genesis, it's very early in Genesis. I want to say it's a famous verse. It's either 6 or 1:6, where it says, "We created man in our image and our likeness."
Dice que nosotros creamos al hombre de nuestra imagen, a nuestra imagen y semejanza.
And I read this when I was really young, just like Eric von Daniken did, and other people had said, "What do you mean it's plural? I thought there was only one God."
Dice que muchas personas decían, ¿cómo que es plural? Yo pensé que solamente era un
Go
Dios.
read it again. It's plural right there in the creation account of man. It's plural. And people still think whoever that being was that said they were God.
Dice que las personas piensan que
in the Garden of Eden, right? Is the only one.
El único.
But there were always a plethora of gods before they started collapsing it into monotheism.
Dice que siempre ha habido muchos dioses antes de que se empezaran a meter de otra forma.
Yeah. So these were the family and relations, the offspring of the Anunnaki, who by the year 330 BCE, according to Plato in his books, those gods had claimed all the territory and their kids in the entire planet.
Reclamaron todo su territorio y todo el planeta y sus
They'd already split up all the terrain way
back
in time.
Repartido todo el terreno desde hace muchos años atrás.
No. Okay, so we got to go back to
the question.
The question.
¿Cuál era la pregunta?
Repeat the question, so we make sure we get it.
Dice, regresando a la pregunta.
¿Quién es el dios de los Anunnakis?
Oh, who?
Who
created them?
Who created the Anunnaki?
Well, that kind of jumped way ahead. That's why I kind of backed up.
Dice
well,
que te fuiste muy adelante, por eso se regresó un poco.
I'll give you the answer, but we got to go back and talk about it later.
Dice que te va a dar la respuesta, pero después tenemos
According
que hablen de eso de nuevo.
The records from Thoth, there's only one source of universal intelligence, and we call that God. The problem is using that label because now he can. Now, when you start giving labels to God, by the way, there are over there's over 3,300 labels of God on the planet right now.
3,000 nombres de un Dios en el planeta ahorita en este momento.
The way to stop that is to do what the intelligent people of the past did and go, there's only one creator of all. You can't go, oh, he's my creator of all. Oh, no, he's mine. You see what I'm saying? You can go, oh, he's my Allah or he's my Yahweh, and then bid them against each other. But once you realize there's only one source, one true source of all intelligence that we were spawned from, that's who the Anunnaki believe created them.
Dice que la mayor parte de las personas dicen, ese es mi Dios, o sea, diferentes dioses, pero tienen que darse cuenta de que solo hay uno.
And just for
un Dios.
And just for future, so we can tuck it away, I did a holographic diagram that came exactly from Thoth that shows the levels of dimensions.
Exactamente de Thoth y se enseña los niveles de dimensiones.
And how the laws and the dimensions relate to the creator of all and all those that are
que se relacionan con el creador de todo y todos los demás.
In the hierarchy of returning back to that energy source.
Regresando a esa fuente de energía.
Yeah. So, okay. So the whole point of this experience as a meat modem was to recognize that you're an instance of that creator of all that you finally discover. It's not the Anunnaki, it's not that archetype of the creator or the destroyer of Enlil or the warrior of Ninurta. All these are archetypes, by the way. Think about the,
son arqueotipos.
See, think about the Greek drama plays when the advanced gods were trying to teach the people lessons through the drama plays. That never changed, by the way. The Anunnaki have been trying to do that to us through those, through Hollywood, whatever. It's all about learning your meat modem lessons so you can progress. Okay?
Dice que tienes que aprender a utilizar tu modem de carne, que es tu cuerpo, para poder progresar.
Okay. I'm going to shut up and let you have a drink of water and then maybe let's ask another question.
¿Otra pregunta?
I'd like to go back more about the origins of the Anunnaki as it relates to our origins versus, or their shenanigans involved in creating us versus, who did they worship? See, the first thing happens when you take Yahweh out and say, that Old Testament God Yahweh, who was so destructive, who told the Levites to kill all their brothers, that one? What kind of God would do that?
Dice que
Exodus 32:27. Read it, and if you think that's your God, then...
So what was the name of him? What was his name?
Yahweh. It shows up right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Yahweh.
Yahweh, que era un hombre.
Yahweh was the one Yahweh's the one that told Abram to go sacrifice his son Jacob. Remember? So he was into child sacrifice too. Okay. Just like Marduk is.
¿Cómo se llama la Biblia?
Caín. No, Caín y Abel.
No, Cain and Abel were a different. They were actually part of the Anunnaki story.
Dice que ellos eran parte de la
Very
historia
early
de los Anunnaki.
Yeah.
Abraham, ¿no?
No,
one was trained to be a herdsman, one was trained to be a farmer.
Dice que uno lo entrenaban para cuidar ovejas y otro para ser un granjero.
The herdsman was trained by Marduk.
Dice que el criador de ovejas.
That was Cain.
El criador de ovejas lo.
That was Cain, who killed his brother Abel, who was the farmer.
Abel, que era un granjero.
His teacher was Ninurta, Enlil's son.
Dice que su maestro
so you got two Anunnaki kids that are training Cain and Abel.
Que están entrenando a Caín y a
Abel. When you find that out, and that the fruits of their labors were to be delivered to Enki to try to please him in his city of Eridu. And when Enki showed favor to the vegetables over the meat, that's when Cain got upset because his offering to Enki wasn't good enough, so he lost his temper and killed Abel with a rock. That's what the real story was.
Así que esa fue la historia real. And I read in one of your books, I can't remember which one, that our DNA was modified. That's why they made us, we're not supposed to eat meat, right?
From what I can tell is they made us as a subset of their DNA. They ate meat. They had barbecues. They sacrificed animals. Even on Mount Ararat after the flood, they had, a barbecue fest. They loved the smell of burnt meat, apparently.
Dice que le pregunté que en uno de sus libros leí que nos modificaron el ADN.
But for us,
para que nosotros no teníamos que comer carne. Entonces, por esa modificación, yo eso le pregunté.
Yeah.
Y dice que a ellos les encantaba oler la carne, pues rostizarse, quemarse. El olor.
Yeah, in their writings, we were not supposed to be eating other animal life. The fruit of the tree and vegetables was our intended food. You can tell by the shape of your teeth and how your digestive system is formed.
Dice que en las escrituras venía que nosotros no tenemos que consumir carne.
Veggie
Ni siquiera
fruitarians.
nuestros dientes están formados para comer carne, ni nuestro intestino para digestirla.
Yeah. So we have a very short intestine relative to 4 stomachs in a cow that can take cellulose and turn it into protein really well. Humans can do it too, but on a limited basis, not as good as a cow or a horse. They both can do it really well. Look how muscular they are. But their stomachs are very different than ours. Ours are designed for rapidly assimilating sucrose and fructose, which come from fruits and vegetables.
Nuestros estómagos están
And our
hechos
teeth
para
are designed
consumir,
to eat
vegetales
those
y
things,
frutas.
not meat.
Y nuestros dientes están diseñados para comer frutas y vegetales, no carne.
Yeah, so a lot of people, this is obvious to them. But anyway, we do it, and we suffer for it, right? That's my opinion.
No,
So, there's a lot of things.
Comemos carne, pero pues sufrimos por la carne, nos hace daño.
Yeah, so in the Bible, early on in Genesis, it does say that our food was to be the nuts and seeds of the trees and plants,
Dice que en la
not
Biblia viene, dice que
animals.
nuestra comida tiene que ser plantas y semillas.
No. And we have further evidence from Thoth that he was vegan. He shows up
Tiene evidencia de que todo era vegano.
He shows up being called the professor in early American history, where somebody had taken note of his diet and his reading habits. People from the American Revolution, those people, they were pretty high up. And they noted that he was, they used to call him Professor Vegan or something. What was the name they gave him? Or we gave him, they called him the professor, but we gave him the name Professor Vegan because of his diet. He was very specific in the writings about what he would and would not eat. It was really interesting. So, and we knew he was an Anunnaki, so we were like, okay. But I'm sure they all had varied diets. Yeah. And here, in general, check this out. Every civilization is composed of free will beings.
Cada civilización está compuesta de seres libres,
Just like ours.
así como la de nosotros.
So you could have one Anunnaki
Puedes tener
that
un Anunnaki
is, a benevolent, honorable dude, and right next to him his brother
Que
from
es
the
un
same
hombre
family
moral,
might be the
puedes tener
rotten seed.
su hermano de la misma familia que puede
Might
ser
be the
la
rotten
semilla,
fruit of the seed of the family, This happens to
la
us,
semilla
right?
podrida o la fruta
See two brothers
podrida
in
de
the
la
same
familia.
family, and one turns out good, and one turns out bad, or sisters, right? Like that?
Yeah.
Well, the same for them.
Dos hermanos, uno sale bueno y uno malo, dice lo mismo para
Yeah.
ellos.
So their range of personalities, like us,
Dice que su rango de personalidad
is
como
just as broad as
nosotros.
ours, and probably more broad. So we can't really categorize them and go, okay, this race, they're all bad. That's never true, because the civilization is a group of free will beings, and some of those free will beings are probably choosing good stuff, not bad stuff. But they can't be the representation of all the other ones that are doing what they're doing, just like we can't be the representative of all the terrible things that go on in the world right now relative to war and disease and pestilence and unfair behavior and racism and genocide and blah, blah, blah.
Todo lo que está pasando en el mundo, racismo, guerra, todo lo que pasa ahorita. ¿Tienes otra pregunta?
Estos Anunnakis que mencionan las tablillas sumerias desde el principio de los tiempos son los que están ahora, aquí,
Are they the
ahora,
same?
controlando todo.
Are the same Anunnakis from back then? Are the same ones that control now everything?
It's possible because of their genetics.
Dice que es posible por su genética.
We have evidence that they could modify their telomeres, or their telomeres were different than
Tienen
ours.
evidencias que pueden modificar
Maybe
sus
their
telomeras.
telomeres weren't programmed to decay like ours do to make sure we only live 120 years, whatever. They specifically mentioned that they limited ours.
Dice que
But-
específicamente mencionaron
which
que
came from
limitaron los
theirs.
nuestros, que vinieron de los suyos, los telomeros.
And their Sumerian king lists show that they could live a very long time.
Ellos pueden vivir mucho, mucho tiempo.
One of them, the very first one, Alulim,
Dice que el
who was the
primero-
king of Eridu,
Que fue el rey de Iridu.
served for 8 SARs. I always remember the first one. There were 9 of them in the before the flood came. And they all served a very long time. 8 SARs. And it said in English, Berossus wrote this. 28,800 years. He was the king.
28,000 años. 28,800 años fue rey. Todo ese tiempo vivió.
All of them. All of
Todos.
them. Now go back to the Bible and from Adam to Noah. How could Enoch live 365 years? How could Methuselah live 989 years? These are long periods of time.
Son periodos muy largos.
Of the biblical patriarchs that probably had the genetics of the Anunnaki that were less diluted
de los Anunnaki.
than what we got. Okay.
Menos diluidos que los que tenemos nosotros.
So it wasn't unusual then to live that long.
Dice que no era inusual vivir así de tanto tiempo, de una vida tan larga.
So now ask yourself the question again. Could the same ones that were around back then be
ahora
here now?
Pregúntate tú hazte esa pregunta tú. ¿Son los mismos los de atrás que los de ahora?
Absolutely. And the way they got away with it, they were the same God almost all over the world was what we found out. And when you look at a table of the names that they used across cultures, that's what gives it away.
Dice que si hablas de todos los nombres que utilizaban en todas las culturas, te vas a dar cuenta.
When you find out that Enlil was Zeus, and he was Enlil in Samaria, but as soon as he went to the temple of Baalbek in Lebanon, where the temple of Jupiter was built, that was his other name. Jupiter/Zeus. So he was Zeus in Greece, but he was Jupiter in Rome.
Era Zeus en Grecia y era Júpiter en Roma.
And that's his planet that he claimed long ago.
When
you go look at the Sumerian records, Enki claimed Neptune.
Enki es Neptuno.
Enlil claimed Jupiter.
Enlil was Júpiter.
And Anu chose Uranus.
Yeah,
and then
Urano.
And then you go further back into Anunnaki history, and they mention Ansar and Kishar, which were the other planets like Saturn.
Luego se van más atrás y ya mencionan otros planetas.
Yeah. So, okay.
¿Por qué estos Anunnakis se mantienen en las sombras? ¿Por qué se mantienen en secreto? ¿Por qué no se revelan a la luz si son dioses todopoderosos?
Why do the Anunnaki don't come out to the light? Like, why don't they want us to know who they are? If they are these gods and they're powerful, and why don't they show themselves to us?
That's a good question.
Dice que esa es una buena pregunta.
They used to do that.
Dice que antes lo hacían.
In the Sumer times, in all the cities, they interacted with the people like it was, nothing, included in the festivals and all that. Later on, as they became, I think they turned over some level of control of the planet to us. They actually made humans kings, right? And as soon as they did that, they stepped out of the liaison road, because ruling from secrecy is far more powerful than ruling in the open. And they know that. So the more they can keep themselves secret, the more influence and power they have. It's like finding out.
Pueden tener más poder. A ti no te va a convenir que tú sepas quiénes son, porque pues se va a caer su sistema, ¿no? Su matrix.
Think about the movie The Wizard of Oz. As soon as they discovered that this being that was all powerful and mighty, that was controlling this city, was some dude behind a curtain using technology to fool them. This is no different. That's no different.
Wizard of Oz, no sé cómo se llama en español.
See, that's no different than the relationship with the Anunnaki. As long as he was behind the curtain, he had them. Right? But as soon as somebody found out behind the curtain what the real deal was, it was over. The gig was over. Yeah, so that's why. And that's partly why nobody's made a movie about the Anunnaki. They control Hollywood.
Yeah, they control.
I found out the hard way. Even in the gaming.
Una película que se relacione con lo bueno, porque ellos controlan Hollywood, la industria del cine.
And the gaming industry too.
Y la industria del juego.
When I started going after Odyssey Key, I was talking with people who worked in GameStop and what their directives were relative to the games. No Anunnaki. I was like, what? So they have a clamp on it. That's why, it's never been able to get the wizard out from behind the curtain. But we've been trying.
Dice que lo estamos intentando. Tratar de que las personas sepan que existen y que sí están ahí, que son reales.
And I think in this time right now, in universal consciousness, is the only time window we've been actually really had that it's full open. And we can see the full truth of where we came from, what they did to us, and all the stuff I put on the front of that book.
Yeah.
Creating, enslaving, destroying, saving. We don't talk about that part very much.
Dice que en este tiempo la conciencia universal ya está muy abierta. Hay una puerta abierta, pues, para que las personas sepan y se enteren de lo que está pasando realmente.
We couldn't sit here discussing the disposition of our sorry meat modems right now if we hadn't been given the gift of consciousness, intelligence that Enki gave us, and a way back with our electrical body to reconnect with the energy to go, this is me and this is not me. Because as soon as you find out you're a permanent energy and that this is the illusion,
Dice que cuando te das cuenta que eres una
you
energía
just pulled the
permanente,
curtain
esto es una
back.
ilusión.
You just pulled the curtain back on the wizard, okay? Because now the
Dice
ghost
que
in
te
the
acabas de dar
machine,
cuenta tú quiénes son
the
ellos.
ghost
¿Sabes
in the
quiénes son
machine's
ellos?
not hidden anymore.
Ya no están escondidos para ti.
It's in the driver's seat.
Porque el creador de todo a ti te dio la inteligencia, la sabiduría para poder
Okay, no?
descubrir que ellos son reales, que sí existe, que sí está pasando todo esto por ellos.
I want to hear what's on Jesus' mind. He's 20 years old. Can you imagine being exposed to the kind of things we're talking about when you were 20 years old?
Dice que quiere saber qué está en tu mente. Dice
He
que
has-
tienes 20 años, pero que estás recibiendo
It is an
muchísima información.
incredible situation
Dice que
that
es
he's
una
in
situación
him.
increíble
I don't
que
even know if
estés
he
aquí.
I don't even know if he realizes it.
Dice que no sabes si te estás dando
Ask him.
cuenta de toda la información que te está llegando a tu edad y que estás chico y que es algo muy grande, pues.
The intersection of the Sumerian document with history is one of the most inflamed, conflicted, occluded, hidden areas of our entire history. So now all of a sudden to be talking about that, you get the attention of the Vatican and many other people that have kept a lid on the truth about our origins for a very long time. All the religions.
¿No tienes nada que preguntar?
Huh?
Que
Leer mi primo libro Los Anunnaki de Nebula en parte.
pues te das cuenta de la realidad y con la verdad que creciste de religión.
He says that when he read your book, the Anunnaki of Nibiru, that's the one he read, right?
Creces con una mentalidad de iglesia.
For example, he's saying that they teach him something else that is not even true, like, for example, religion, you know, and that he grows knowing this for all these years, and now he discovers the truth, and it's...
I know. But look how early he did it.
Dice que es bueno porque descubriste la verdad muy pronto.
Y no vas a estar esclavizado a la religión, a un Dios.
Yeah, that he's not going
Tú
to
sabes
be
la
enslaved
verdad.
to this religion and not knowing anything, and
Wow.
now he woke up, and he
Pues, adoración a un
doesn't,
Dios.
he's not like the rest of the people that are just in church and with that God that's hanging there, and
Is that because he started to discover
dice que es
the,
porque si empezaste
the
a
energetic
descubrir
template that makes up his body?
la energía que
Through
crea tu
structural
cuerpo
integration, possibly through the breathing
por integración
exercises we've taught
estructural,
him.
por las respiraciones que te han enseñado.
So, when you experience the distinguishment of yourself from your not self, this is what Thoth tells you to do in the Emerald Tablets. That's what you got to do in this life.
Sí.
You got to figure out that your sensors are skewed and that what you thought was you is actually a program that
Dice
came
que
from
tienes
culture,
que, en las
so
tablas
that
que
you
vienen
tried to fit in, pretty much.
en el libro de El Séptimo Planeta,
Right.
en las tablas Esmeralda, viene pues que tienes que descubrir cuál es el real, quién eres tú realmente. Cuando ya te empiezas a despegar de todo lo que te controla, de todo lo que está pasando, o sea, tú ya no te llama la atención, tú ya no sigues ahí. Entonces ya estás despertando, ya sabes que eres energía, y ya sabes que, pues la verdad,
Yeah.
prácticamente.
So basically what it comes down to is you got to get to the place where you don't trust your senses anymore. You don't believe what you see, hear, anything anymore because your sensors we're designed in a very limited way, and the reality that you're getting from that is meant to be so limited that you believe that you're a material being and there is nothing else. Right?
Dice que limitaron nuestros sensores, que va a llegar el punto en el que tú ya no vas a creer lo que estás viendo, ni lo que escuchas, ni lo que ves, nada vas a creer ya, porque pues sabes que nada más estás aquí en...
Afuera, ahora.
Yeah.
I was reading that it was just as easy as acknowledging that you're spirit, and you don't necessarily have to go off to India or do something really crazy. You just acknowledge that you're self from your not self, and boom, you did it.
Yeah, exactly. No tienes que... No es necesario viajar a India para encontrarte. No es necesario hacer eso. Simplemente... Pues hacerlo tú mismo, de repente, no necesitas ir a ningún lado.
The only thing that may be required is being quiet, slowing your senses down so they're not bugging you, and it causes a brainwave change so you suddenly detect the frequency of universal consciousness and you realize, I don't need my meat modem brain on chewing on the past and the future all the time, because when it shuts down, it creates a space for universal consciousness to have direct communications with you. But when it's going blah 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 blah,
And this is where
what's on my...
meditation comes in.
That's right. And listen, there are a lot of ways to do this. Okay,
Dice que
some
con la meditación
people
puedes encontrarte tú mismo.
believe you got to sit there and go, oh, a thought came in my head. Oh, I gotta get that one out. Oh.
Dice que cuando estás meditando, lo que tienes que hacer es eliminar del pasado,
can't.
del futuro, nada tiene que estar
Yeah.
ahí.
There are different ways to get to the same place. There are ways to get to universal consciousness without meditating at all. You just basically use a
Que
device
formas
that
de-
changes your brainwave state to that which connects with universal consciousness.
Dice que a veces no es ni siquiera necesario meditar.
Yeah. So that's in the low ELF, the extreme low frequency. Anywhere from a half a hertz to 8 hertz, 10 hertz. Okay, it's a very small range. And so it looks like there are several frequencies in there where you can have all kinds of experiences, and we're starting to understand that a lot more.
Dice que cambiar tu frecuencia.
Yeah. So it's a brainwave,
Dice que es una onda en el cerebro.
dimensional change that suddenly connects you to that
Cambio
energy.
dimensional que te puede hacer que puedas entrar a esa energía.
Yeah, and pretty soon, once you
Esa
connect with
conexión, esa
that
vibración.
and realize your inspiration comes from that,
Dice cuando te conectas a eso y te das cuenta de que ahí viene tu inspiración
and that you're divinely guided and protected by that,
y que eres guiado y protegido divinamente por eso.
then you get unafraid of dying, and that your
Entonces ya no
meat,
te da miedo morir
and that your meat's going to fall apart,
y que tu
'cause it's going to,
cuerpo se va a desintegrar porque se va a desintegrar.
and you can concentrate on the
Y
mission
puedes concentrarte en la
and the
misión
inspiration that came from that channel,
y la
'cause that's
inspiración
from,
que viene de
that's from-
de ese canal, de
the creator ball.
esa onda. Eso
No.
es el creador
That's
del todo.
uniquely for you from the creator ball.
Es-
And if you pay attention and do that stuff, there won't be any reason for you to stay behind and redo another avatar enslavement on this planet. So when people wake up and they decide that
Dice que cuando las personas despiertan,
their higher self is their real
deciden
self,
que su más
that-
alto yo es su real yo,
and the anchor that has
Y el
been
anzuelo que te
enslaving you
agarra
to the
aquí en la
material
tierra, que
reality,
te
that has
esclaviza
likes
aquí en la
and
tierra.
dislikes and attachments to everything and all that,
que tiene apegos y todo eso.
then you're ready. So
Libérate de eso y estarás listo.
everybody's available to wake up.
Todos tienen la oportunidad de despertar.
At any
todos, en cualquier momento.
You can be awake your whole life.
Puedes estar
Not be-
despierto toda tu vida.
Yeah, he's got the opportunity. Look,
Jesús tiene la oportunidad.
he has the opportunity to live a life where he just pursues optimizing his
Vivir una
energy
vida
body
donde
and his
nada más
spirit,
necesitas la
and
energía
what
de
that
tu cuerpo, tu
does-
espíritu.
and what that does to his perception of reality. Because listen,
Lo
we're
que eso
talking
hace la
about
percepción de tu realidad.
layers of consciousness that are related to your
Estás
chakras.
hablando de como partes de conciencia, son como una cebolla, ¿cómo se llama?
Yeah.
Capas.
Como capas,
Capas.
ajá, como capas
Kapas,
de
kapas is
layers
layers. Okay,
de
layers.
conciencia, que eso te habla de los chakras.
Yeah, and they're discrete layers,
que
okay?
son
This
capas muy
layer
discretas.
doesn't touch this one. Meaning,
Esta capa no toca
there's a
esta.
quantized energy in there that says this is
Hay una energía cuantificada
the energy for this region.
que dice, esta es la energía para esta área.
And the reason I'm telling you this, when you stand up outside and your feet are touching the ground,
Dice que cuando te paras allá afuera
the
y tus
most
pies
negative
tocan el piso,
potential is the ground, which is zero, right? That's how we treat it electrically. Well, also, the most positive part of your energy body turns out to be up in here.
entonces lo más negativo es abajo, que es el cero.
Well, it's very
Entonces, lo
similar-
más positivo es aquí.
Yeah,
enfrente.
it's called the sphenopalatine ganglia, right inside your nose, right here. And I don't want to get too complicated. What I want you to understand is, if I take a metal rod and I stick it in the ground, and it's 6 or 7 feet tall, like approximately like a human, that the potential difference at the top will be different than it is at the bottom.
Dice que lo que está tratando de decir que la potencia va a
Meaning,
ser
if
diferente
I
estar
measure the
abajo y estar
electrical
arriba.
voltage potential at the top, it'll be different than it is at the bottom. Well, the reason that is because the Earth is basically a charged ball
Dice, eso
from
pasa porque el planeta
from
es
thousands of
una bola
lightning
cargada.
strikes that are happening from the clouds that envelop this ball all around the world. So essentially, there's charged energy that can be
Dice,
released.
energía cargada que puede ser liberada.
The higher you go from the
Más
ground
alto que
up
vas del piso hacia arriba,
till you get to the cloud base or wherever that
hasta
is,
donde llegan las nubes o donde quiera que esté eso,
the more electrical differential potential there is. Meaning it's going to be more voltage higher up than
hay
it
más
is lower.
diferencia
And this was the basis of what was going on
de
with Tesla's work.
eléctrica y de potencial diferente cada vez que subes más arriba.
See, what I'm telling you is, so when you're standing outside with your feet on the ground, that's the most that you're going to be like an antenna where the electrical potentials are at their maximum, right? So we have things that, Christa, tell her what we do, sun staring and standing on your line, things like that to experience that. So maybe just chime in a little bit about that.
Sure. We in the morning we do sun staring, but you have to do it really early, otherwise it's really bright. Like around 7 or 8 here, and we do it usually barefoot, and then we usually do our alternate nostril breathing at the
Dice
same
que
time.
hacen una práctica temprano en la mañana que se ven el sol, entonces reciben toda la energía de los rayos solares de la mañana. Y dice que también practican las respiraciones. ¿Es the 7 and 8 or the?
In it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
There's 12.
Yeah, 6 on each side.
6 en cada
So
lado.
this is a Kriya Yoga technique to balance your Ida and Pingala nadis.
Dice que es para balancear.
Those are the intertwining serpents you see on the Caduceus. Those represent the Ida and the Pingala nadi. A nadi is a little node that sits right on the ganglion, on this ganglion, which is a nerve complex in
Dice que es un
here.
nervio que tienes en esta parte de la
So
nariz.
this is your sphenoid bone, remember from structural integration? So inside that bone,
Adentro de ese hueso,
there's a ganglia, which is a nerve complex. So when you breathe in your nose,
dice que hay un ganglio. Entonces cuando respiras hacia adentro,
there's energy that's in the ether, you might say.
hay energía que hay
They
en
call
el
it
éter.
they call it prana in some
Se le
languages,
llaman
or
prana en algún
chi
lenguaje.
in other languages, like in the east.
Otros
But it's
lenguajes
real.
como en el
It's
este,
real, okay?
Pero es real.
And we experience that through our breath. So if you equally stimulate the Ida and Pingala nadi, the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system suddenly shake hands with each other. Okay? And this is really important. Okay? Because this has to do with your waking up process.
Dice que esto es muy importante, las respiraciones, porque tiene mucho que ver con tu proceso al despertar.
Yeah. Yeah. So once you get the Kriya Yoga is designed to get the maximal amount of air going through this one and this one, so that when you're breathing normally, like that you're getting the same amount hitting the Ida and the Pingala nadi, because if you're not, you're going to be in an energetic
Tiene que pasar la
imbalance
misma cantidad de aire por los
between your
lados,
sympathetic and autonomic nervous system.
porque si no vas a estar desbalanceado en tu sistema nervioso, entonces no vas a poder
I'm
lograr.
sorry, you're sympathetic and parasympathetic. Yeah, this is where structural integration comes in.
Desde que aquí es
Why
donde la
in session
integración
7
estructural,
are we in there
session
with
7,
our finger to move that concha away from that place? Is to allow that air to make it to the sphenopalatine ganglia, so the Ida and Pingala nadi are working right.
Dice que para eso es la sesión 7, la integración estructural,
There,
para
it's
poder
very,
abrirlo y
very-
que entre aire
I can't
La
emphasize
misma
how
cantidad
important
de
that
aire
is.
en ambos lados.
Yeah, I can't emphasize how important that is. Okay, while we're talking here. Once you get it past there,
Así que es muy importante.
then you've got your third eye, right? Which is your pituitary gland that's getting
Tu
stimulated.
glándula pituitaria.
This is when you're doing
Es cuando te estimulas.
rapid
Y
breathing,
esas respiraciones rápidas.
they call shining skull or kapalbhati, or you're doing this Kriya Yoga technique. What you're doing is concentrating that energy and
Así que
charging
estás concentrando esa energía y
the third eye because
estás
you're on a
cargando
vision
el tercer
quest.
ojo.
You want to have a vision quest to connect with universal consciousness. That's where it connects with you oftentimes.
Dice que para conectarle con la
So that you
conciencia universal, eso es lo que necesitas hacer.
check in and you're going, you check. It's like plugging into the wall and you get your inspiration refill, or things clarified for you automatically. There's
Dice
no
que
question.
tienes claridad en el
There's
pensamiento,
nothing
es como
mental.
si te conectaras y te recargaras nuevamente.
None of
Las
it
respiraciones.
involves your brain thinking. It's all direct connect to.
Dice, nada involucra que estés pensando, que tu cerebro esté pensando.
That's
es
how you know it's
conexión directa.
different. It's different than just self-deluding yourself
Por
with
eso sabes
thoughts.
que es diferente.
El aire baja, tiene que bajar al estómago.
Air has
Y
to
regresar.
enter
O
stomach
se tiene que ir a los pulmones.
or does it have to go to
O el aire se tiene
When
que ir
you
a los pulmones.
when you breathe,
To
you
lungs?
should be breathing from the stomach, because from there it expands the rib cage in three different
Dice que del
three different
estómago,
ways.
porque abre tus costillas en tres maneras diferentes.
There's three levers on the ribs, and it needs to start from breathing here. Most people are
Dice
very
que tiene
shallow
que iniciar
breathers,
respirar en el estómago.
and I think there's a different mix of oxygen and nitrogen for us now than there used to be hundreds of thousands of years ago. Okay, so we have to almost hyperventilate
Tienes
in
que
order to get the
hiperventilar
proper ratio of oxygen to nitrogen, from what I can tell. I think
para
that's why.
poder
'Cause when you-
obtener la cantidad exacta de nitrógeno.
Yeah. So if you just breathe normally, it doesn't happen. But if
Dice
you,
que si respiras normalmente no pasa.
but once you know how to do it, within 5 breaths, you can trigger it while you're standing, or
Sí.
even sitting.
Si aprendes a hacerlo
Yeah.
con 5 respiraciones, puedes hacerlo parado o sentado.
Right. So that's where we do the 7 breaths in, or the 7 count in and the 7 count out through the nose. Right. And when we do that, within the 5th breath, and we hold it, it's possible to get quote unquote shimmery, right? Kind of dizzy.
Dice
Well,
que
that
cuando
energy
haces
of-
las respiraciones
Yeah.
te dan como de repente sientes
Yeah. That's an energetic effect that had to do with your breath, your Ida and Pingala Nadi, your third eye, all of that. And in addition to that, if you've been playing the structural game where your head's on top, then playing with how gravity is interacting with all that. And once you mix gravity in with experimenting with what you are as yourself, that's when you realize that. Oh, he said Dada before Mama. And it's been recorded. I know this is a competition, right? You secretly in the room go, Mama, 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 like that. See if they can do the M before the D. Well, all right. Do you want to stop this?
Oh, that's funny.
Huh? I think we're going to pause for a moment here. And what we'll do with Sahara, Irvin, and Jesus and Christa is we'll probably post a picture of everyone so you know what we look like. And then we'll put this up so you can get a chance to listen to it. So until next time, this has been Gerald Clark with 7 Planet Broadcast. I hope you enjoyed that. Join my premium family as a backup plan. Given public content is being censored and removed by YouTube, my low premium cost, only $10 per month, is necessary to ensure the content availability as well as continued funding for our business, 7th Planet LLC. Thanks for becoming part of our stellar community of seekers and finders.